Please say aye. Contrary, thank you very much. We're going to move to item 10, and I welcome Nick Saunders and his team. And Nick's CFO one is under some time pressure, so perhaps you might like to lead this off with the finance. We're interested in the finances rather than the marketing of pink. Thank you. Eden Pink. All those who got a freebie from here, put your hands up. Quite a few did apparently, but not me.
Kia ora koutou, good morning, Your Worship and Councillors. So I will pretty much cut straight to the chase, but just a reminder that you received this update from Eden Park on their performance in accordance with resolutions that the Finance and Performance Committee made some time ago, requiring this to be reported 6 monthly. We have Nick and Brett here who will take you through their presentation. And I'll take the report largely as read, noting so a few key figures around operating profit for 31 October and the net adjusted deficit for the year. The drawn loan balance on the facility that they have with Council remains steady, and Eden Park continue to pay interest on that facility, with that loan balance due on the 30th of September 2029. So I will now hand over, those boring bits aside, I'll hand over to Nick and Brett.
Thank you. Morning, good morning everybody. I'd just like to provide a summary of the financial performance for the financial year ended 2023. When we last presented to the governing body, those figures were forecast. They were prior to the completion of the annual audit. So I'll just summarise those numbers for you now. The first column on the left is the top line figures from our annual report, and you can see that there are some fairly high numbers with respect to operating profit and expenses. Then we have net interest and the depreciation charges, which include a significant figure for impairment. So just a few quick notes to explain. We, of course, suffered the insurance issues around the flood in January 2023. During the course of the year, we have been advanced funds by the insurers in order to cover costs. The funds that have been utilised for claims payments are reflected in the top line numbers for income and expenditure equally and opposite each other. So there's over $8.5 million of claims accepted and paid. I should say the acceptance is a preliminary acceptance. The claim hasn't been finalised or completed. So the funds that have been advanced have been done so on more or less an ex gratia basis and goodwill. We were provided $15 million of advance payments in order to meet costs in the pipeline for the insurance recovery work, which is ongoing, and 8.5 had been spent as at balance date. So that inflates the revenues and expenditures extraordinarily in the year. We've also incurred $32.5 million of depreciation and impairment. Of that, the impairment charges were $21.7 million, and that consisted of our estimate of the underlying costs of the assets that have been lost or damaged in the flood. That amounted to $12.5 million, and we've also impaired redundant assets that were replaced during the course of the upgrades that took place prior to the FIFA Women's World Cup. This included the replacement of the lights of the stadium lights, the old screens, CCTV cameras, turnstiles, and a range of other projects that were completed in preparation for the event to make sure that the stadium was fit for purpose, safety aspects were improved, and so forth. So the second column there is our adjusted result. The adjustments include exclusion of grant funding from IMBI of about $4.3 million, which was a revenue item, and I've also adjusted out the impairment charges. So the critical number I'd just like to focus on there is the net operating profit in the adjusted column of $8.2 million. That represents our real financial performance in the year. It excludes the MBEC grant funding. After recording that operating profit, we've incurred interest costs, which bring us to a profit before depreciation of $7.3 million. And I'd just like to focus on that number for a few moments and make some comments in respect to our balance sheet. The $7.3 million was effectively spent in its entirety in ensuring that those range of projects, the improvements took place. In our annual cash flow, we incurred $11.4 million, almost $11.5 million of costs for property, plant and equipment, of which, as I mentioned, 4.3 was provided by IMBI, and the balance is roughly $7 million, which equates to the profit before depreciation. So the Trust invested all of its operating surplus on those upgrades to our assets in the year. I would then draw attention to the high balance of cash and cash equivalents we held at year end. At year end, we held $11.4 million of cash and cash equivalents. That's an increase of $8 million over the prior year, and the reason for that is the balance of funds from the insurers that were unspent at year end was held to cover the insurance project pipeline as had been approved by the adjusters for the insurance companies who underwrite our losses. So we did hold a high cash balance at year end. The reason was that those funds were extended to us on an ex gratia basis by the insurers, and so they were ring-fenced, as is our policy with respect to money received in advance. Within the current liabilities section of our balance sheet, we also have a balance of income in advance of $11.4 million, equivalent to the carried value of cash. So that covers us for the types of revenues that we receive in advance, particularly for concerts, memberships and so forth, which haven't been earned, and if an event should take place, such as the postponement of the concert by the weekend in December, those funds are repayable. So we need to maintain them as liquid at the year end, the financial year end. Looking to 2024, an entirely different forecast. You'll see that our budget on the right-hand side included a net operating profit of $1.7 million and after interest $600,000. The second to right-hand column is the current forecast. We incurred, as I say, the postponement of a major event in December, which is a concert by an artist called The Weekend, and as a consequence of that, we're running behind our budget year to date, although we have made some gains to get to a position where we are forecasting above a break even. Those are the January numbers that we provided to Treasury in accordance with our quarterly reporting of the interest cover covenant on our loan, and I'm pleased to say that in the month of February we made some further gains towards getting back to our budget for the year. I'd now like to pass to Nick for the next slide.
Morena, and I'd just like to first acknowledge the sad passing of Fesso Collins. Fesso was someone that we had a strong relationship with over a number of years, and I'm sure it affected everyone around the table, but certainly from an Eden Park perspective, I just wanted to acknowledge that. I'll move on to some very positive stories here, Mr. Mayor, but I also note the sense of the room, and we will be very quick. Eden Park is a truly hybrid multi-purpose facility, and since we last reported, you can see the nature of our business has significantly changed. 70% of our attendance over the past 12 months was not part of our attendance only 5 years ago. The shift towards a multi-purpose hybrid facility aligns with, I suppose, the changing demographic of Auckland, but also the expectations around the experience economy. So whether it be going from freestyle kings into rugby league, golf being played at the stadium, cricket, and then the Phoenix recently with our 18,000 odd attendance, undefeated at the Fortress, and we've already spoken about Pink, but Pink was a phenomenal success at the park. Coincidentally, and linking into our previous presentation, we are looking at a reading at the park event with various authors, so we'll be able to work in with the libraries. As far as our community engagement, it has been a strength of the park over the past 7 years. We do a variety of fundraising initiatives. They are listed here, whether it be the Auckland City Mission, right through to public events on the No. 1 Oval, and then events such as the Make-A-Wish Foundation, whether it be through alignments with the likes of a Dan Carter or indeed with Pink. A number of other charitable opportunities arise with our activities. We are a charitable trust and we don't give obviously sponsorship or cash, but we do provide experiences for a number of organisations, including schools and charities, to do fundraising activities. Our investment in the asset is something that we're very proud of, and we are leading the way in terms of our sensory room as a legacy from the FIFA Women's World Cup, and we are looking to upgrade to a second area. Our also one of the key areas that we've focused on is around mobility. We have comfort zones now throughout the venue where people with mobility issues have heating as well as screens, and a cordoned off area across the entire price range and categories, but also with the increase in neurodiverse attendees, partnering with the likes of Kennards Hire to provide earplugs for attendees and areas to break out. And I'm not going to go through obviously a number of the feedback and comments raised, but this is definitely an area that we've grown and continue to prosper. With regard to some stadium upgrades, we are moving towards a variety of stadium upgrades. That includes some works on the lower west stand and also reviewing down at the eastern end. This is fantastic for the city. It could increase our capacity from between 5,000 and 10,000 patrons for sporting and also concert events. And obviously when we get to the economic benefits from the likes of our major events, those 5,000 to 10,000 extra patrons will be material for the city. I'm not going to talk too much to the resource consent and the work we're undertaking. It's been extensively publicised around some of the challenges we still face with our resource consent. We do have 97+% support from the community, and we are working closely with both council and government to make those changes needed to ensure that the city doesn't miss out on events moving forward. With regard to Pink, I heard people talking about Eden Pink and a number of the initiatives undertaken. This was something that we wanted to ensure that the city embraced the event. We have a number of examples of whether it be 27 people coming up from Wellington as a group and staying in the city and spending in the city. We are really looking at being a monopoly for major events and competing against the likes of the MCG and a core stadium with our increased capacity. It was fantastic to see the city embrace it. The one just on the bottom left-hand side, I do want to touch on that, was Colour Me in Sunshine. That was covered through the back house areas of Pink's dressing rooms. We had over 500 kids participate in that program, and even Pink's children painted in a piano that will be a legacy here at the park. As far as occupancy of hotels, we've been advised that 97% occupancy of hotels on the Friday night and 94%. There may well be even some increase to that based on some data that I believe Auckland Unlimited has. Also the positivity arising out of the shows. I do think that we need to focus on being proudly Auckland and the piece around events and the importance of events to the DNA of a city. We want a city to live, stay and play, and we think that we can play a really important part in that process. Again, I won't read through the comments. The comments, you are right, Mayor Brown, there was a number of councillors who did attend. You are always welcome at Eden Park, as you know, and I'm also very happy to provide chauffeur-driven services on the way out for anyone else around the table.
The mayor didn't do pink, but he did do blue.
As far as I quickly moved on, if you noticed, in terms of our partnerships, some of our partnerships, as I mentioned, are leading the world. We're very proud of our association with the University of Auckland. We're looking at research, teaching, learning, fostering new global programs, particularly in the stadium management space. 20 years ago when I started, or 25 years ago when I started the industry, it was very much an embryonic industry. Lifting the knowledge and the standard, but also the utilisation of the stadiums is critical. And when we understand the carbon implications and the investment in carbon to build stadiums, they must be the equivalent of the town hall or the church moving forward in terms of bringing people together. They are not just for sporting events, they are for all of Auckland and New Zealand. Live Nation's been an outstanding partner of ours. This year they'll bring 7 shows to the park, with obviously the 2 postponed weekends. And then I just wanted to touch on Permabil. I know some councillors came to our Permabil event. That attracted around 1,000 attendees to Eden Park, demonstrating our ability to host mobility and accessibility activities at our national stadium. In terms of sustainability, we touch on this regularly, and our commitment to sustainability, and that links into our vision for Eden Park 2.1 and the carbon emissions associated with glass, steel and concrete. And the need for adaptive reuse. For those of you who haven't been to the B201 building at the University of Auckland, I encourage you to do so. The highest 6-star green energy in the country, but it actually demonstrates what we're planning to deliver with our North and West Stand redevelopments, and aligning with the climate emergency and putting a roof on the park. As far as our sustainability action plan, we work with a Harvard graduate to put together that plan. Believe it or not, she's based in Las Vegas, and that program now links in with our community garden. And only on Sunday we had our community in to talk through our community garden and the future of our community composting at Eden Park. A number of our partners also participate in that space, and for those who go to the retail areas at Eden Park, all our packaging is compostable. It is coloured to the various events that we have, and then working with Samsung, we do regular e-waste collections for the community to drop off. We do see ourselves as an opportunity to expand our revenues. It is something that we've been doing both locally and internationally. I mentioned 70% of our attendance and revenues wasn't part of the business model 5 years ago. We envisage over the next 3 years, 30% of our revenue will come from outside the 4 walls of Eden Park, whether it be doing consulting in the turf management industry, management of other facilities, or indeed demonstrating licensing opportunities through some of the innovation that we create. You've all seen our vision and mission previously, but I just wanted to emphasise the importance of being multi-purpose. Our game plan, again, is something that you see around the walls of Eden Park. It's about being the benchmark on and off the field, and the number one priority for us is customer service. But when you have 100,000 plus people coming through the venue and 3,000 casual staff, we do also need to ensure the safety of those patrons, so attention to detail is critical also. So those values and behaviours are seen and communicated through our business. Our strategic priorities over the next few years will emphasise the 7 priorities, and again, I won't talk to those other than to say we're on track in each of those 9 strategic priorities. For those of you that aren't aware, we do a number of art events at Eden Park. We have the Art Battle Grand Final, we have an artist in resident on site for our major events. We've got obviously Super Rugby, garden shows, All Blacks content, and Coldplay at the end of the year, where we'll see over 160,000 patrons come to our city over 3 days. So I'm mindful that Brett does need to make a plane with our airline partner Qatar Airways. He is paying for that flight. Is there any questions?
Well, there are 5, but Brett wants to go pretty soon. So has anyone got a financial question amongst those 5? Finances, we'll go to the Councillor Newman's is fine and Councillor Darby's, and then we'll go to the other ones.
Thanks, Brent, for the summary of the financial report. So just looking ahead, so because I think this is pretty good. It's not a bad performance compared to some, I suspect. But okay, so moving forward, the financial year, next one is going to be a bit of a tough one, obviously, because of the economic climate that we're in. Moving forward beyond that, how do you think that would be looking? Yeah, congratulations on being able to move that surplus capital towards completing some of those upgrades. So that's the first question. I've got a follow-up. Perhaps it's for Sarah, I'm not sure. Brent?
So this is, look, this is essentially, I guess I could say, a steady state type of budget and forecast for the current period, but the prospect is that we will enjoy greater content moving forward, looking at the pipeline of events that Nick has lined up. And if we can survive at this level with the content we've got in the current year, then I think it's only going to improve from there, especially with the prospect of expansion into other revenue sources that we're not reflecting in our current results.
Okay, well, my follow-up question, Brent, because you've got to basically run a balance sheet which is cash in, cash out, it's transactional, it has to be, it's your money, you've got to really target and report on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, Sarah, if this is actually a question for you. I kind of get para 12, okay, but with respect to the reporting, we're referring to $2.1 million of investment from Tātaki, and then brackets Eden Park. Now, I'm actually struggling to understand how that is accounted. Is that accounted in Brent's balance sheet? I suspect it's not, which means that there's a bit of an assumption that we are spending in that particular space as well, and I'm just not quite sure how that money reconciles in terms of the balance sheet, or is it more of a statement of sort of me too, the family's in for Eden Park and we're wanting to jump on this conversation. How does that money, that 2.1 million, get reflected in Brent's balance sheet, or is it a broader statement about what it is that we like to think that we're achieving?
I'll offer a comment and maybe get Brett to chime in, but it's really here just to illustrate the good working relationship that Tātaki and Eden Park are building in terms of not only Eden Park delivering great experiences and events, but how the council group family supports that through the Major Events Fund to attract quality events that come to Auckland, a number of which take place in Eden Park as our biggest stadium. My understanding is it does not come through your balance sheet. That's really through the Events Fund, through to the promoters to attract that content there. So,
well, can I just get one clarified then? Is that so the money through the Events Fund for promoter attraction? I mean, what line of sight does Eden Park have to that, or do they not have? Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me to be a bit sort of, I'm not quite sure. Do they have access to it or not? If they don't have access to it, it seems a bit inefficient. And if they do have, but I'm not sure if that number should be reported here, because it doesn't look like it's Eden Park if they're not getting the funding.
My understanding is, Councillor Newman, that's across all events across the entire city. It doesn't reflect in any of our figures, and we don't have visibility. I would say that we are working closely with Auckland Unlimited moving forward, and over the last 12 months to try and attract more events to the city. But I'm just not sure of the breakdown as to how much of that is allocated to promotion or events at Eden Park versus other facilities.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Councillor Darby.
Thanks, Nick, and thanks, Brent. Can I just unpack, I'll just find it now. You've got other operational income of 9.9, previous year was about 1.8, and then you've got operational expenses of 8.5, previous year 0. Can you just unpack that number? It's not there, it's actually on your, in your published document. I think it
Sorry, what
is
page you referring
on
to?
44 of the annual report. So I'm referring to the top left of 44. And good to see the event income growing there, Nick. And also, it's good to see that other operational income growing substantially, but I'm pointing out the expenses on that operational income have gone from nothing to 8.5.
Yeah, so that figure there is the 8.5 of insurance monies that I referred to. So that's the costs
Okay,
of
I couldn't see
repairs
that in the
been
footnote. Okay,
incurred.
that's explained.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. And I'll come back for another question after the financials.
Thank you.
I guess the only financial one, so you may as well give us your other question, and then if the finance guy has to go, you can go, mate. Okay?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks, finance guy. It's good. Just my other question is, Nick, I just want to acknowledge, with my AT hat on maybe, but, working together with Auckland Transport on integrated ticketing with the content providers, I think that's a really good lead on Eden Park Trust's part. On that note, the bus hub, which was on your plan before, the bus hub, did that receive any support from Auckland Transport in the design or the workings of it? Or was that an initiative totally of the parks, the bus hub?
My understanding is that it was entirely an Eden Park project. It was part of the redevelopment, so it was funded through the redevelopment back in 2010. And I don't believe there's been any significant changes to the bus hub in that time. I may be incorrect, but nothing that I can recall.
It's a big attraction. I mean, it really makes the park much more efficiently accessible. At a recent concert, it was not available though, and we did have some transport issues on that day. What was the reason that the bus hub was not available? So it's a big area, it's designed to move people in and out, and it was not available for the Pink concert. Is it because of the constraints of hosting a concert and the requirement of having logistics in that area to support all the containers and everything else that goes with a concert? Are we likely to see, say, for Coldplay, the bus hub not accessible, or any other event?
Thanks for your question. And just to clarify, I met with both Dean Kempton and Nick Hill following the first Pink show. The service provision was unacceptable, and even subsequently there was a suggestion of 45 minutes being the key performance indicator to clear people. Now, I've worked in the industry for 25 years and that's never been a key performance indicator that I've seen anywhere in the world. For the privilege for the promoter's charged around $100,000 an event for integrated ticketing, something that doesn't occur in most cities around the world. The public transport system did fail for the first show. There was improvements made. My understanding is that there was some infrastructure issues associated with the Kingsland Railway Station that didn't enable our patrons to leave the venue. The venue cleared in 14 minutes. The capacity from the bus hub was compensated on Sandringham Road with greater capacity, so there was no inference or implication in terms of the buses. A lot of the time now, and CRL will do this as well, that you won't have buses direct to the North Shore. We want buses direct to the North Shore, but the Auckland Transport Plan sends people back into town and then they distribute it from town. So I'd encourage you to encourage Auckland Transport to revisit that. As far as construction for concerts, we try and mitigate the impact on the residential area, and we're still working through. We're only sort of 6 concerts into our consent, but the improvements we've made working with the residents around bump in and bump out, the preference from the residents is actually to work 24/7 and get it done. At the moment, our consenting doesn't enable that, so we stretch out the bump in for longer periods and actually then utilise areas that shouldn't necessarily be done so. So that's something we're working through with our consenting process. So the bus parking bay was used for a boneyard because Pink had a show in Melbourne on Tuesday and had to get a lot of that equipment out. Again, we work with the residents. Our current consent restricts us to send a truck every 15 minutes out after a concert. So as you can imagine, they've got 17 trucks ready to go and they have to then wait 4 to 6 hours to send them out. So we work with our residents and got that amended. So as soon as the trucks were full, they could leave and people could go to sleep. But there's a lot of work to be done around public transport. We've put in a submission to the long-term plan around just flagging the Kingsland footbridge. Kingsland Railway Station, our planners have told us, will be the single greatest beneficiary of CRL, yet there hasn't been too much work invested around what that's going to do to Kingsland Railway Station. There has been about crossings in recent days. So we're excited by CRL. We want it to open. Over 60% of our patrons are coming via public transport. We think we can get it in excess of 85% in future.
Just in summary, is there an ongoing constraint in the bus hub area with concerts? Or is it just Pink, or are we likely to see other concerts take up the bus hub for logistical purposes? You've explained Pink, you've said that there's truck movement restrictions. There's obviously a footprint of land there that is required to host a concert, which does impede, because people came to me saying, I didn't take the bus because I went there and there was nothing happening, I walked to the train station.
So in terms of we're working with specific promoters, and it will depend upon, Ed Sheeran, by way of example, was a 360-degree stage. This show was a Western End stage. Billy Joel was an Eastern End stage. So it does vary from event to event. We're also looking at utilising the outer oval. So again, under our consent, there are designated areas as to where we can use as boneyard. We actually want to change that to include also the outer oval so that, again, less truck movements, less forklift movements, but also less of the impediment, for example, on a bus parking bay. So our preference is for buses to be in the bus parking bay, but it really comes down to each production, and I'm happy to give you a bit more detail after today's meeting on that.
Good question, good answer. Councillor Walker.
Sure, just 2 or 3 things quickly. Just around the background to this loan, would it be helpful for clarification to actually cover off that the reason for that loan is the reneging of the grant that the legacy councils should have made? Would that be helpful?
That has been commented on previously, and obviously I have a view on that. I was involved at the venue at the time, and Eden Park currently pays interest on that loan.
Sure, so that clarification would be useful. The other question I've got just goes to your mention of the hybrid nature of what you're proposing, which is both a retractable roof and hybrid seating, more so than now, effectively both sides. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that will mean that you'll be able to cater cricket arguably better than now, conceivably baseball, Aussie rules, enhanced concerts, and I don't know what else. So can you give us a flavour of that? Because I don't think Aucklanders appreciate just what you're proposing there.
Thanks for the question. In terms of Eden Park 2.1, it is a truly hybrid multi-purpose stadium. We are looking at the fact that we've got a population of 1.7 million people, the percentage of people that attend live sport, but also entertainment, a whole range of other events we're looking at, whether it be religious events through to boxing, UFC, car shows, etc. So you're right that it does enable greater boundaries for Test match cricket. That gives surety for both cricket and rugby with broadcast rights. As far as the adaptive reuse of the north stand, it's not knocking over the north stand or the west stands. It's actually utilising the existing infrastructure and giving it arguably a facelift. So I think that it's a financially responsible and also environmentally sustainable option, and the only option for Auckland, and that's based on my experience over the last 25 years.
Thanks. Commendations on Eden Pink.
Deputy Mayor Simpson, please.
Well, thanks, Your Worship. I just want to thank you for what you do for Auckland, but Councillor Newman asked my question around point 13. Thank you.
Brilliant. Councillor Ferry?
Thanks very much. I'll try and keep this quick. I was interested in two aspects. One was the point that you made about having a lot of income coming in from sources that, the park didn't work on previously. And it seems to me a lot of this increases in the area of content more for women and girls. And I wondered if you had a comment on that and sort of the strategy there, because I see it as a major plus. It seems to have much fewer negative impacts for the surrounding neighbourhood, and we seem to see better behaviour on public transport with those kinds of events. Not to say those are the only kinds of events we should run as a city, but I think there's a lot to learn there. So that was my first question. Thanks. Then I've got one other quick one.
Thanks for the question. And I have spoken previously, I think 5 years ago, when the previous government launched their Women in Sport strategy. Even under our consenting, women's sport was referred to as curtain raisers. And if you look now, the last 5 sellouts of sporting events at Eden Park have been women's sport. And so the growth in women's sport is only going to continue. And even on the weekend, having the double header with the Blues women's team ahead of the Blues men's team just demonstrates the growth. And Eden Park's been a proud sponsor of the women's team, the Blues women's team, for the last 3 years. So that area does present opportunities for us, but it also presents challenges around our consenting because of the restrictions we have on the number of events. There's no question that the demographic differs from men's and women's sport, and there's certainly more families that attend women's sport. It fills 2 of our strategic priorities, whether it be content is king, number 5, and then fostering equality and inclusion in our action and events. So it's definitely a priority for us, and it shows what is possible with women's sport in our wonderful country.
Thanks. And just for the record, I didn't take the tickets to Pink, but I did go along to the Permabile expo that you hosted, and also a water care one, those ones that have been free for us to attend. So really appreciate that work that you're doing, also hosting Eid, which is really important for our diverse community. My other question was just around, you mentioned a possible income stream in the future from management of other venues. Are you managing any other venues now? I wasn't aware that you were.
No, we're not. We're in discussions with and looking at other opportunities around Auckland and New Zealand. We have done some consulting work, both locally and internationally, around whether it be race courses or indeed commercialisation of naming rights. And we do some consulting for both cricket and rugby at community level and grounds. We did previously put in a tender to run a number of the grass fields around Auckland, but was unsuccessful. But we will be attempting to do that in future again.
Okay, thanks very much.
Good question, good answer, Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Just a quick one. I risk death if I don't take this opportunity on behalf of my office ladies at my little business. Why can't Taylor Swift come?
How much time do we have? So we are working with council and central government. The reality is, even next year, there's a number of artists that are looking at multiple dates for Eden Park. So this isn't just a Taylor Swift issue. This is actually a content issue for us. And earlier this week, I talked about the FIFA Women's World Cup. We did 9 events in 27 days and 350,000 patrons. We didn't have a consent when we actually bid with the council and government to get that event. We don't have the luxury in the concert space to do that because of the process. So I'm confident, and the wheel has kept spinning. Concerts have actually showcased what is possible at our national stadium. So I'm confident in future, whether it be that artist or other artists, it's on their bucket list. We are going to be competitive against Melbourne and Sydney, or even Perth, whether it be because of the yield that we can deliver, or indeed New Zealand's a desirable place for people to come.
I didn't realise you're a fan there, Councillor Turner. Yeah, Councillor Fully.
Kia ora, thank you, and thank you, Councillor Turner, for asking that question. Look, a lot of our councillors around the table have asked questions, and you've told the story well about the economic benefits that you are providing, since the last report. But I wanted you to tell a bit more of the story around the economic benefit that you bring as an employer, as a major employer in our city. I'm keen to understand, especially as we're in the middle of a climate. We are in the middle of a climate crisis as well, but of a cost of living crisis, and we're staring down possible increase in unemployment, especially for young people. So can you tell us a bit more of the story of how many people you employ in the city, whether you're a living wage employer, and if not, are you working towards that? And then also for those, because I've come a few times over the years and I recognise some faces, but they're still in those entry-level jobs. Do you have a plan for career progression for your long-term workers or professional development for them? Kia ora.
Thank you for the question, and it's something I'm very passionate about, and it also links in with the University of Auckland and what we're doing in that space. From a full-time staffing perspective, only today I approved for our head of legal, so she'll be going over to the UK, doing a month with a venue over in the UK to increase her skills, knowledge and learning. It is an industry, once people get in, my corporate suite manager's been 30 years with the business. Our receptionist has been over 30 years with the business. So once people get a taste, a lot of them stay. Our casual workforce, when you can imagine, whether it be through catering, security, cleaning, customer service, electricians, plumbers, the train driver getting an extra shift, the bus driver getting an extra shift. But I do want to touch on a number of the businesses in Kingsland and Dominion Road, and we have a lot of association with them. There's a small business, I'm sure they wouldn't mind me mentioning, Kingsland Social. Husband and wife, 3 young children. The difference between an event at Eden Park happening or not happening is the difference between their business surviving. And he's one of the best chefs in New Zealand. And he reached out to me in the lead up to Pink and he said, hey, we're struggling, is there anything you can do? And we got 42 full-time staff, and I said, you can cater for us for 3 days. The messages and thanks that I got from that family and the messages that actually inspires me to do the job that I do. A number of our casual staff in catering succession plan into full-time roles, or indeed roles during the week. So we have 1,000 functions a year across our non-event days. So those staff, a lot of them actually, but also it provides opportunities. We've got 2 young ladies that we had an Air New Zealand function. They were staff working on event days. They were offered flight attendant roles. So now they're flight attendants with Air New Zealand. We had their mother at our suite for the Phoenix fixture, and she said whenever they get an opportunity, they come back and work a shift at Eden Park. So there's these great stories to be told across our workforce and the development and opportunities. It is an embryonic industry, but it's also transferable. So the customer service skills you learn at Eden Park can be transferred into whether it be working in retail or working in your day-to-day business. So the other piece is we employ a number of local residents. So a number of residents use it as their second job. They come in, they work in our corporate suites, they work in our retail outlets, or they work across a number of other roles. So the community engagement element is far broader than just employment. Thanks.
Kia ora. Thank you.
Thank you for that. John Watson, please.
Just picking up on a couple of your comments there, Nick, and the one that came from the remark of looking to have a positive impact on the community. And you know, to your credit, Eden Park's always taken an Auckland-wide role. In this presentation, you mentioned you know, an interest in going to more stadium management, lifting knowledge, understanding, utilisation, bringing people together, management of other facilities. Every time you come in here, it just gets better. It's just you're doing more, there's more big events, there's more community involvement. What I want to know is there any possibility that stadium management and advice and utilisation could be used to help other parts of Auckland that, in stark contrast to this, you know, glowing performance, are in a parlous state where the communities aren't nearly so fortunate as having an Eden Park in their midst. Is there any chance of of it broadening out to that, because there's people crying out for help.
I won't comment on the other facilities other than to say we've just lost our turf manager after 15 years, an assistant turf manager. And what I'd say is it was due to opportunity. So the ability to have scale comes back to the earlier question. By having scale and diversity of opportunities gives succession planning and an attempt to retain staff. So the ability to operate across multiple facilities presents opportunities, and there's many management companies globally that do that across a number of facilities. So it's something we're exploring on a commercial basis, and we think that we've got the expertise and knowledge to do so.
There you go. Councillor Bartley, and then we might have a break.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, maybe it's a cheeky question, but you know, all this talk about a new national stadium on the waterfront, would you argue that you're the national stadium?
Absolutely. As someone who moved here 7 years ago and now calls New Zealand home, I'm a New Zealand citizen. I'm invested in the country and I'm invested in Eden Park. Eden Park is a global brand. And even after now, we had England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, South Africa, Argentina, but now after the FIFA Women's World Cup, markets like the US, Philippines, China, our tour program represents the diversity of the tourists that are coming to our iconic stadium. So there's no question. And again, I know it's not for this forum, but spending $2 to $5 billion on a new stadium is not financially responsible, irrespective of the circumstance. So
yeah, this is part of a process. We probably shouldn't be talking it here. We've got a whole other process in parallel for this.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, the processes I want to go through is lunch, actually, if that's all right.
Sounds good. But thank you for that.
And just to be very clear, the Eden Park Trust hasn't made any comments on it throughout that process. We've abided by the signed confidentiality agreement in contrast to the other three proposals.
Okay, thank you for your enthusiastic performance and an enjoyable presentation. I had hoped to do item 9 about storm recovery now, but I think we've got well into the lunch break. There's a lot of people have been sitting out there for ages. They probably go to toilet break as well. So I'm going to reconvene in hopefully 20 minutes. But we'll try and have a quick. But in the meantime, we will receive these reports. Thank you very much. Moved and seconded by the Albany representatives. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, thank you. A short break, ladies and gentlemen. I will accept 12:45 kick-off. Thank you for those people who've attended patiently in the background.